Hello, and here is the news. Just the one headline today. Version 1.3 of OpenToonz is now out. It's the most feature-rich and stable version of OpenToonz we've ever had, and you can download it from the OpenToonz GitHub page. Just click on the download link, choose OpenToonz, then below the terms of use is the download link. Download and install it as you would any other program. And if you've got an older version of OpenToonz already installed, you can keep your settings just by renaming your stuff folder. I'd always recommend taking a copy of your projects folder first though. So all you need to do is to remove the 1.2 part, and then when you install, choose the option to keep your settings, and that should keep all of your keyboard shortcuts and room layouts. So there's been a ton of changes since the last release, and I can't possibly cover them all here, but I covered some of them in my last video, and there's a link in the description to that. And there you'll also find a link to this pre-release page showing a list of all the bugs, improvements and features in this release. But a few highlights of this release from me include a new text effect that lets you add text to your animation that you can more easily edit later, and this can take large amounts of text directly, or you can use a note column so that the text can change from frame to frame. And I made a video about this a few weeks ago, link in the description. And there's a new Clapperboard feature that allows you to add details of the animation at the front of your animation to help when you're editing lots of video clips together. Useful for collaborations or if your main animation is made up of lots of small scenes. And I made a video about this too, link in the description. And there's two other things I've not made a video about yet. Firstly, the MyPaint brushes can now be used on Toonz Raster levels. And to use them, all you need to do is to create a new brush, and on the new brush, choose a raster brush. But be aware that the MyPaint blenders and erasers don't work on a Toonz Raster level. They work with standard raster levels, but not Toonz Raster levels. But it's a huge improvement to be able to use a pencil, a paintbrush or a felt pen style, and then later change the colours. And as they're on a Toonz Raster level, you can also use the bucket fill. But obviously some pens use a lot of anti-aliasing, so you might not get a complete fill the first time. You might have to use the lasso tool to reach the edges. And I've not yet made a full video about this, but you can read about them on the feature page, link in the description. And finally, we'll have the horizontal timeline. And I've not made a full video about this yet, but it's fairly obvious what it's about. And you can find this in the timeline room, or you can add it to any room, as we can do in the X-Sheet room, by choosing timeline from the Windows menu. And you can dock it by clicking and dragging and placing it above or below any other part of the window layout. Or, if you've already got an X-Sheet in your layout, you can change the timeline view by clicking this button at the top left, which toggles between the timeline and the X-Sheet. And I think you'll find yourself using the timeline and the X-Sheet for different purposes, so both are useful. But the timeline's great, so it'll help newbies to OpenToonz feel more at home compared to other software. But it's also functionally better, as it can show more frames because it uses the width of your screen rather than the height, and you can zoom in and out, using either the zoom bar at the bottom of the timeline, by clicking and dragging, or pressing the buttons at either side, and that zooms to one of 9 different zoom positions, or for using a mouse you can hold the control key and scroll your mouse wheel to zoom, which you can't do with the X-Sheet. And this can help you see more of an overview of your animation frames. So you can easily see where the separate drawings are by the black dots, or where the keys are by the white diamonds. But obviously this hides the drawing numbers, but if the drawing numbers are important, you can just zoom in to see them. And speaking of keyboard shortcuts, you can also hold Alt while your pointer is over the timeline to scroll the window left and right. And if you hover over the drawing area, holding Shift and Control, you can use the mouse wheel to scroll through the frames. And there's lots and lots of other small improvements and bug fixes to make using this version of OpenToonz much better, including improvements to shift and trace, the pump tool, anti-aliasing for Toonz Raster levels, SVG importing, onion skin targeting, and so many more. Now I've been using OpenToonz as nightly releases for some time, and I'll make a video about them in the near future. So I've seen many of these improvements since I first started working with it over a year ago, and the difference is staggering. So if you've not tried OpenToonz for a while, or dismissed it because there was too many crash bugs, I'd suggest you take another look. So that's it for today. A brand new version of OpenToonz is out, so if you're not in the middle of a large animation, why not update to the latest and greatest, most stable and feature-rich OpenToonz yet. And as always, subscribe for more news as it happens, tutorials and animations. And that's a Darren Tea.